Hello and welcome to the M is for Mama podcast. I'm your host, Abby Halberstadt, happy wife, mama to 10, Bible-believing Christian. And on today's episode, we're going to get to do just a general chat and catch up over what's been going on for our podcast break for the summer here at the Halberstadt household. And before I do that, I want to jump in and talk to you guys about our podcast sponsors. Christian Healthcare Ministries is an alternative to health insurance, which gives your family so much empowerment to customize it to what you need. You know your principles, your priorities, and your practical needs for healthcare, and Christian Healthcare Ministries can come alongside you to help you achieve those. We've been using Christian Healthcare Ministries personally in our family for over 6 years. They've gotten us through a couple of births with great experiences, and we love that when you join, you are working together with fellow believers who share the same values. You can learn more by visiting chministries.org. I also want to remind you about one of our favorite sponsors, Voetberg Music Academy. And I say favorite because my son Simon is using their guitar program to learn, and he is loving it. You can join thousands of other families who want to break free of the private lesson model, which is very expensive and often specific for one child, and allow multiple children to work together to learn multiple instruments. You can learn guitar, mandolin, ukulele, violin, and piano, and you can share accounts within a family for as little as $30 a month using the code M is for Mama 20 for 20% off each month that you're enrolled. And I love that they allow you to get more songs from the vault to learn, that they allow you to work toward badges, which they actually mail to your house, and that there's even a fun fall ribbon festival to work toward to display your hard work. Your students will be motivated to learn and enjoying learning music more than ever before with Voetberg Music Academy. Again, you can use the code M is for Mama 20 for 20% off each month you're enrolled, and you can find them at voetbergmusicacademy.com. And finally, I want to talk to you about christianbook.com. This one is dear to my heart. I remember getting the magazines way back when and flipping through them. It's very cool that I can see my books, M is for Mama and Hard is Not the Same Thing as Bad, in the pages of those catalogs now. And they are just a wonderful one-stop shop for everything Christian for less. All right, friends, I am so glad you are here, and I'm so glad that I get to just chat with you today. We don't have a big agenda. I don't have a specific topic in mind. I just wanted to catch you guys up on the comings and goings of the Halberstadt household over the last, I guess it's been about 3 months since I got to talk to you guys just on a face-to-face basis. I know I can't see your faces, but you can see mine if you watch on the videos or just listen to my voice. And I really enjoy connecting with you guys here in this space. Podcasting is one of my favorite things that I get to do. I'm so grateful the Lord allows me to do this. And I'm so grateful that I have my son Ezra who can help me, because I just know that when it comes to the technical side of things, it would not happen. I just don't have the bandwidth, nor the interest, nor the expertise. So what a gift it is to have these kiddos that have abilities beyond ours and different than ours. So rewinding back to the very end of our spring, which our springs tend to be kind of busy. If you'll remember the spring before this last one, we went for 6 weeks to Europe. And if you haven't listened to that podcast before, you can look for, I'll put the episode number in the show notes, but it's our grand European adventure. It was a long time coming. It was 5 years in the making. And that was an incredible spring. This last one was good too, though. Our family got to travel to a couple of homeschooling conferences. And those are always fun, not only because, for example, if we go to Branson, Missouri for Teach Them Diligently, we can go do fun things like mountain coasters and go to Silver Dollar City, but also because my girls especially love to come to the conferences and meet people and work the book table and work the merch table. And they're honestly really good at it. They just have a natural, I know I'm bragging on my kids, but I like them. I love them, but I also find myself really proud of the ways that they are using their gifts for the Lord and to bless others. And if you know our family, you know that our family motto is to be a blessing. And so it's fun to watch them be a blessing. All these mamas that come to these events that I get to speak at, and they get to minister to them and smile at them and chat with them. It's just really cool to do that together as a family. So we did a couple of those. And then Sean and I actually got to, we got to go to Scotland for our 19th wedding anniversary, which is kind of an odd anniversary to do a big trip on, but it's in keeping with a quote unquote tradition, which is that 10 years ago, I don't know if it can be a tradition if you've only done it twice, but I'm just going with it. 10 years ago, we got to go on a really cool trip to Europe when we had only small children because our very nice parents were kind enough to help us with childcare while we were gone. And we knew that we would not be able to pull it off very likely, or at least it would be harder to pull off for our 10th anniversary because we were pregnant with Theo at the time, who is our number 6. And so, excuse me, my voice is croaky today. I'm battling some sort of crud, so I hope you'll bear with me as I've got a little bit of a scratchy throat. So on our 9th anniversary, I had Theo in my belly. I was 13 weeks pregnant, and we got to go to Santorini, Greece, and Paris and London. And then this time we got to go to Scotland in keeping with that kind of 1 year off from the big one theme. And we had just both been interested. Sean had been to Ireland before. And I know for my Scottish and Irish listeners that they're not the same thing. I'm fully aware. But because Sean had already been to Ireland and we were talking about places in the UK we'd like to go, we were like, neither one of us has been to Scotland. It's beautiful. And we'd love to see the countryside and to visit the Isle of Skye and to see what Edinburgh is like. And so we went for it. It was kind of a waffling back and forth decision. Finally, we decided to go for it. And I'm so glad we did. It was such an enjoyable trip. And we had beautiful weather, which we had beautiful weather when we went to Europe for 6 weeks. When we were in Europe for 6 weeks, I kid you not, that we only had 2 half days of rain. And one of them was quite welcome, meaning we had been going and had so much sunshine that it was nice to have an afternoon in to just rest and have it be drizzly and cozy outside. But we had incredible weather there, and we had wonderful weather in Scotland as well. In fact, we kept having people tell us that it was unseasonably warm and clear and sunny. So we were grateful for that. Very grateful indeed. I think you guys know that we're a little bit pickleball obsessed. And so, of course, everywhere we go, whether it's a homeschooling conference or a work trip that Sean and I have to do, or a family trip or whatever, Sean will look and see if he can find a place for us to check out pickleball. Ezra and Sean and I are especially into it. And then Simon really loves it as well. And we have Theo and Nola that are really into it. Della's starting to get into it. So I don't know. We are currently working on a sport court, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a second because that's a fun development. And I guess we're just going to be a pickleball family. That's just a thing at this point because we're really into it. So Sean found us this pickleball club to visit a little bit outside of Edinburgh, and so it was mostly people that were 55 plus, I would say. They all had these lovely Scottish brogues and such a kind, welcoming presence. And it was just so fun to see the way that they interacted with each other, the way they welcomed us. As soon as we were done, they were like, "Are you coming to tea?" I know, terrible accent. And or I think they kept asking us to drink coffee, and neither Sean nor I are coffee drinkers. And they were like, "Oh, tea or soup or whatever, just come over with us." And I mean, some of them really had such beautiful, strong brogues that it was like, "Girl, let's go, girl." I loved it. And again, I'm sorry I'm massacring your beautiful accents, but it was really fun to get to experience their culture and just their kind, warm, welcoming people. They honestly were some of, in all of our travels, we've encountered all kinds of different people. Obviously, we've been to Australia, we've been to Alaska, we've been to Europe, we've been to a lot of states in the US. And the Scots were really some of the warmest and most welcoming people that we met. Very cheerful, very friendly in the shops. And I've been other places in the UK where this was not necessarily the case. So I don't know what I was expecting, but they were really kind. And so that was really fun. And Edinburgh, guys, I just have to give that city a moment because I didn't know much about it before we went. We ended up finding an incredible rental on the Royal Mile, which is basically this historic mile-ish strip. I think it's a little bit longer than a mile, that runs between Edinburgh Castle at the top of it and Holyrood Castle at the bottom of it. And it is the most charming street. and it's bustling with tourists, but it's not annoying. And one thing that I found really interesting, just because I enjoy design so much, was the design of their restaurants was absolutely stunning and impeccable. You would walk into like an Italian restaurant, and instead of kind of being your typical, and I'm not bashing this, but kind of your typical darker tones and wine bottles hanging from the ceiling, or drippy candles and checkered tablecloths. This was this gorgeous, um, multi surfaced, very integrated. Like, some walls had wallpaper and some walls had really cool tile, and um, they had cool, like, upholstered leather, like turquoise banquettes to sit at. And just everywhere you looked was a feast for the eyes, and it all worked. So several of the other restaurants we went to were so well designed that it made me wonder if there's some sort of incredible restaurant designer in Edinburgh that's doing several of these restaurants, because they just flowed so well. We went to a fish and chips place that was one of the coolest looking restaurants I've ever been to. And it was, I mean, they mostly served fish and chips. You wouldn't necessarily expect the interior design to be incredible, but it was. So that was really fun for me as a design lover. And then we did a lot of walking, and the food was really, really good. I have a precious reader that I've gotten to be really good friends with, who's originally from Scotland. He lives in England. We almost got to meet. We were set to drive an hour north of London when we were there a year and a half ago and meet her family. They have 11 children. They homeschool. Her husband's a pastor there, and they were going to host us very graciously, but they ended up getting a stomach bug, and it was so close to our flight back to the US that we couldn't chance it, because that was going to be a real bummer if we couldn't get 13 of us on a flight because we were puking. And so we passed up on that, but she gave me all kinds of suggestions for our trip to Scotland. And I was asking her about food, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about haggis, and blood sausage. And she's like, Abby, we do have other food. And I said, I know. So I said, so tell me what I should eat in Scotland, because you said you have other food, and I'll find all of these options. Like, but I want to eat authentic food. And she's like, you know, our authentic food is not my favorite. I would go for like the Indian or the Thai or the Italian. So we did try haggis. We did try blood sausage. Oh, I don't want to. Sean tried haggis. I think I tried one little bite. It was, I mean, it didn't taste like much of anything one way or another. I just had kind of a mental block with it. Um, and we did eat blood sausage, and I believe that's what it was. And it almost tastes like carrot cake or something. I'll have to, I think I have a different definition in my head of what it is than what it actually is, and we've looked it up, but I'm not remembering exactly what the particulars of it are. Um, but well, we tried. But we enjoyed pub food, and we enjoyed the international food, and just basically, oh, I will tell you this while I'm just rambling at you. We went to the Isle of Skye and ended up getting a flat tire, because there are little crags, like the roads are very uneven and the edges of them are very sharp. And so, and the roads are very narrow. And so Sean, in attempting to avoid a pothole in the middle, went a little bit off the road with his tire, and those sharp edges just popped it like a balloon. And we ended up stuck. Boo hoo us. We're on the Isle of Skye. There's like idyllic rolling hills and sheep and puffy white clouds and blue skies. It was hardly a terrible place to get stuck, especially when you're with the person you love most. So we just chatted and had a chill, and it wasn't hot. I mean, getting stuck on the road um, in the middle of the summer in Texas would be a little bit of an ordeal, because you would be in a puddle by the time somebody came to get you. So we weren't sure how it would work out, because we're on an island and we didn't know if there was going to be someone available to come help us. Turns out it is so common for these tires to get popped on these rental cars or people's regular cars that are out there, that while it did take a guy a while to get to us, it was only because he was busy fixing everyone else's spare tire, or putting another spare tire on him, or fixing their burst tires. So that cracked us up, because he said, you're my sixth of the day, and there's one right around the bend, like right behind you, that did the exact same thing. And I'll probably have like 5 more today. So they stay in business with that. But right before we popped that tire, we had been at this little restaurant. And I will try to remember to ask Sean and look up the name of it if anyone happens to be in Scotland, because apparently my scratchy voice and my foggy brain is making it where I can't remember the names of anything at the moment. But I'll try to remember the name of this restaurant. And it had one of the best things I've ever eaten in my entire life. I kid you not. And it was a piece of sourdough toast with extremely fresh heirloom tomatoes on it, arugula and other fresh greens on top, like fresh cracked pepper. I believe there was some cheese on it, but I think it was feta. And I know that sounds incredibly simple, but they had drizzled some sort of magic dressing on top that just made it taste like summer and unicorn and rainbows in your mouth. And it was so good. I would eat that every day of my life. And Sean, he's a man, he likes meat. I like meat too, but probably he more than I. Said the exact same thing. He's like, oh, that could be, I could eat 3 of those pieces of toast and be like good for a meal because it was so good. So really good food. Kind of blown away by Edinburgh and how amazing it was. Isle of Skye was very cool to see. um, that particular day, I was struggling with jet lag, so I took some naps in the car as Sean drove us all around the island. But what I saw, which was quite a bit because I did wake up for most of it, was really beautiful. And then we got to do some more fun things. We got to go to Inverness. We got to play pickleball. Um, we did some hikes. Yeah, it was just a really fantastic, rejuvenating trip after kind of that spring semester for me always feels like, one, this sprint to finish homeschooling for the year. Two, a lot of times I have deadlines or a podcast that interview to be on, which I did have that this year. Or like I said, homeschooling conferences our family is going to. It just kind of feels like it all coalesces into this frenzy in May. And I know everybody's Mays are rather frenzied, but um, it's just felt that way for the last 3 years, basically since MS for Mama came out. It has felt like life goes into warp speed in April and May, even more so than before. And I have older kids. A couple of years ago, as I was graduating, all that. So it was a really lovely time to rest and hang out with each other and reconnect after being pretty going in a bunch of different directions quite a bit for the last month or so. Well, the day we got back, because we decided to just pack this in, I guess. The day we got back from Scotland, Sean was home for like 10 hours before he and Ezra and Simon, who are my oldest 2 boys, 18 and 16, before they all took off to the wilds of Canada, where they were doing a wilderness trip that they've done a couple of other times before. I think one other time with both of the big boys, and then Sean has done it with his dad a couple of times before. And so they're gone for 12 days. They're out of cell phone range. The only way to contact them is via satellite, like short little 140 character texts. It's kind of wild, but they go and they catch all of their meals. They take a bunch of food in with them. There's no way they're going to starve, but they catch fresh fish, and they canoe, and they hike, and they sleep under the stars and get eaten alive by mosquitoes. And I'm sure they sleep in tents rather than quote under the stars, but it's just a really bond with nature kind of wild experience. And so they did that. And I was speaking at a Turning Point USA event called the Young Women's Leadership Summit in San Antonio. So my family, my mom, my brother, sister-in-law, my dad was recovering from surgery, so he didn't get to go. And then their 4 kids, and then the 8 children that I had with me all went to San Antonio. And I was talking about how mild and temperate the climate was in Scotland. That's not San Antonio in June. And we had a particularly just kind of brutal June in Texas in general. Extremely hot, extremely humid, extremely uncomfortable. And so we went down to San Antonio, and believe it or not, popped another tire. This just a tire that blew on my van. And I was so grateful that my brother was there to take care of that. And so we were there for 3 or 4 days, and saw the Alamo and ate ice cream and walked around. And the only time that I interacted with the event that I was speaking at was when I actually spoke at it. I had 20 minutes. Like, they had a lot of speakers. So I had literally 20 minutes to talk, do a Q&A, and then I did some book signing and chatting with people for about an hour afterwards. And the rest of the time I was with my family, and we got to go to a water park. And I say that to try to put a good spin on it because the water park in San Antonio called Schlitterbahn, with 12 kids 13 and under, on a day when it's like 101 outside, does not feel like a get to, does not feel like a privilege. It definitely feels a little bit like a punishment. But we survived, and we came home with the same number of kids that we left with, and or arrived with at the park, I should say. And everybody was healthy and they had fun. So that's really what matters in that case. Now I will say that we had a fun surprise, or I had a fun surprise, because I was the only one who knew, which is I found out that I was pregnant. And if you don't follow me on social media and you just gasped, hang in there. I know this is a very casual way to just slip in a pregnancy announcement, but it's because there's more to it that's coming. But I found out that I was pregnant while Sean was gone, and I did not tell him via 140 character satellite text. I wanted to tell him in person. And so I was the only one that knew for almost 2 weeks, because I found out right after they left. And so I was pregnant during that trip to San Antonio, definitely feeling a little queasy and tired, but making it. And then got to tell everybody about the baby on Father's Day, which was really fun. I typically don't do big announcements or complicated announcements. It's more, when you've been with someone for so long, we've been married for almost 20 years, and you've had a lot of babies together. A lot of times it's kind of like, hey, here's a positive pregnancy test. But it had been a while since we'd had one. We had a miscarriage in 2021 and have not gotten pregnant since. So very excited. The girls were, everybody was over the moon, but my girls were just really, really, really jazzed about it. And so it was really fun to get to announce that to them in a fun way. I have a video of it that I'll always keep and cherish. But sadly, we found out a couple of weeks later that I had had a missed miscarriage, which a missed miscarriage is where your body doesn't know that it's miscarrying yet. Your HCG levels are still high enough for your body to think that it's pregnant. You still have pregnancy symptoms. You're nauseated. Your uterus even keeps growing because your placenta is producing HCG, but the baby has passed away. So our baby had actually died about the time that I was announcing his or her life to, and I'm just going to call her going forward, because I really felt like that this was a girl. And the name that I have picked out for her is a girl's name. And so I found out that she had stopped growing at 6 weeks, and then I had to wait another, and we found that out at 8 weeks, and then I had to wait about another 3 weeks for my body to recognize that it needed to do something to physically start a process for miscarriage. And then it has taken about a month up until really recently for my body to fully finish that process and fully heal, which has been, it's been a hard experience. Um, it's been an opportunity to see the Lord's goodness and his faithfulness to me during it, and his nearness to me in my sadness and my frustration with my body not doing what I want it to do, and in my kiddos' disappointment at not getting their little sister that they were so excited for. But the Lord has been really faithful to carry us through and to give us moments of joy and rest in this summer season. But there was not just tons of rest, because I actually had a manuscript for my third book due on August 1st. And so got that finished, got that turned in. And that will be basically the wrap up to a motherhood trilogy that I started with It Must for Mom and Heart Is Not the Same Thing as Bad. And the title of this book, which I am happy to reveal to you soon-ish, the book writing process in the traditional publishing world is very slow. And so even though I turned in the book already, it will not be in your hands for another year or so. And you'll be able to pre-order it in about 6 months. But the title of this book answers the question, is all of the effort in motherhood that we're putting in actually worth it? Like, Is the payoff worth it? Is there a payoff? Like, what's our goal here? And what should we be striving for? And I have a very fun treat for you in this book, in that I really wanted to get the perspective of women who have gone before, who have older children, children who are not perfect, and neither are their mothers, but they still have that perspective on that question of whether it's worth it and what the goal is, and how are we honoring God through this, that I really wanted to share with you guys. Some of the names you'll recognize from authors and speakers that are beloved to you. Some of the names are precious to me because they're in real life friends who have been helps and mentors to me. And my own mama is going to contribute, which I know you guys really enjoyed that podcast with her and love hearing from her. So I can't wait to get that third book in your hands, and I pray that it will be a huge blessing to you. And just know that, just like with my first two books, it's full of scripture and full of practical helps and full of pointing you back to the foundation of our faith, which is the rock that is Jesus Christ. So we had some other things that went on this summer. I can't even remember them all. The girls and I got to take a trip to visit my lovely assistant Becca for her baby shower. That was a surprise. And we've had a couple of other things here or there, but mostly you're caught up on the happenings at our house. We are just about to jump back into homeschooling. We'll do that next week. You'll hear this on Wednesday, and we'll start the following week, probably on Monday. I don't know. It's homeschooling. We'll see how it goes. But I'm excited to get back into that routine. And then our homeschool co-op will start up at the end of the month. And then I have some fun things this fall. If you are coming to the Wellness Collective, I will get to see you there. And then there's also an event that I will leave down in the show notes called Share the Arrows, where I will be speaking with Allie Beth Stuckey and Elisa Childers and Rosario Butterfield, and Francesca Battistelli is doing the music, and that will be in Dallas on September 28th. So that's just a heads up for those of you listening. If you're in that area or want to come see us there, that would be really fun as well. I'm going to wrap this up so that I can go make dinner for my family, but it has been a joy to chat with you, and I can't wait to share with you again next week, and I hope you have a really blessed day. If you enjoy the MS for Mama podcast, I would be so honored if you would subscribe and follow along, maybe share with friends, or even leave a review. And if you want more content on motherhood and biblical responses to cultural issues, be sure to follow along on Instagram at m.is.for.mama.